Welcome to this presentation of the Minelab X Terra and the rewarding hobby of metal detecting. Now, metal detecting is a great way of meeting new friends and finding lost history. Now, Minelab makes some of the most advanced metal detectors on the market today, and here we have the Minelab X Terra 70.
The X Terra 70 is the flagship of Minelab's X Terra series of metal detectors. It's an advanced piece of technology in an easy-to-use, lightweight package. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced detectorist, you can get out and start detecting with the X Terra 70 right away. But there are a few things you should know about the machine and about detecting in general, so we've produced this DVD to help you. Now, here's what we'll cover in this presentation. We'll tell you about the history of Minelab, from its beginnings in gold prospecting to the latest advanced special-purpose detectors. We'll introduce you to V-Flex technology and explain how that makes the X Terra 70 a stable detector that allows you to find more. We'll take you through the turn-on-and-go basics so the beginners can start detecting quickly, and also cover the more advanced adjustments for the experienced detectorists. We'll also cover gold prospecting with the X Terra 70 and show you the different coils available for this detector, as well as the many accessories that are available from Minelab.
Now, Minelab were established in 1985 and they have corporate offices in Australia, the USA and also here in Ireland. Now, in 1986 their core focus was on gold detecting, and they developed a machine called the Gold Seeker 15000 that could deal with mineralization. And a guy called Bruce Candy came onto the scene because he developed the technology to solve the mineralization problem. The success of this new technology for gold detecting started a second gold rush in the gold fields of Australia. A few years later, they modified the gold detecting technology for use in relic and coin and jewelry detecting, and the metal detectors capable of discrimination were born. Minelab is a technology-focused company that's committed to pushing the envelope with cutting-edge technology in their detectors. They also have support and service centers all over the world, where they employ not people who just sell you a detector, but experts in the field of detecting who can answer your questions. Minelab is also a world leader in demining technology, and they supply mine detectors to both United Nations and the US Department of Defense. Now, if you have any questions for Minelab, here is their contact information. Do you know when you buy a machine from Minelab, you're not only getting a metal detector, you're getting the global support system that goes with it. Any questions? Pick up the phone, call Minelab. I've got the 70 with me, and I know it's got some special technology in this.
Right, yeah.
What's it called? V-Flex, isn't
V-Flex, yeah.
Can you tell us something about this V-Flex technology, please?
Sure, yeah. V-Flex basically is the integration of digital signal components into the detector. You know, we're used to analog components in the detector technology.
Okay.
You know, metal detecting has been around for over a century, but the technology is analog. It always has been, and that's considered older technology now. What Minelab has done is replaced most of the analog circuitry with digital signal processing.
Okay.
So now there's a microprocessor in the control box,
Yeah.
and a microprocessor in the coil.
In the
and
coil?
They talk to each other.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
You know the difference between analog and digital, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Analog is like turntable, your stereo.
Yeah, yeah.
Digital is compact disc,
Yeah.
DVDs, things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So it's a much cleaner signal.
Okay.
So what Minelab has done is replaced all the analog components with better and more reliable processing equipment. And also, they've tuned what little analog circuitry is left to match as closely as possible what digital circuitry is there.
Okay, right.
And what that means is the machine is more stable, it's less susceptible to changing ground conditions, changing
Okay.
temperatures, things
Right.
that will mess a detector up.
Right.
So it's a more reliable machine with
Okay.
digital processing in it. So what happens in the process, when you turn the machine on, the processor in the control box talks to the processor in the coil. And it says, hello, who are you? What are you?
Yeah.
And the coil says, well, I am this size coil, I am this type of
Right.
coil, and I'm operating at this frequency. The control box says,
Wow.
okay, now I will adjust my programming to best use your capabilities.
Okay, so now you can only use the coils that Minelab make
Yes.
with that chip in to communicate with.
Correct, yeah.
So you can't go out, right. Okay.
Now, elsewhere in the presentation, we'll cover this about different coils.
Okay.
But there are other coils that are available for this machine. This machine has shipped with it a 7.5 kilohertz coil.
Okay.
Which is good for general detecting.
Right.
Any condition you want. But there
Okay.
are other coils, lower frequency and higher frequency, that are special use coils.
I
Now,
know
we'll cover that.
That's pretty exciting. I can't wait to do
It's
that.
great
'cause that's-
technology.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Now that was V-Flex technology. Now let's take time out and have a look at the control panel. Let's take a quick look at the control panel buttons. We'll demonstrate their uses to you later in this presentation. The power button turns the detector on and off. The patterns button scrolls through the 3 preset discrimination patterns. The mode auto button has 2 functions. The mode function toggles between coin and treasure mode and prospecting mode. The auto function sets the automatic option for certain menu settings. The all metal button toggles between the selected discrimination pattern and the all metal pattern. The menu select button accesses and scrolls through the various detector settings. The plus and minus buttons adjust settings and scrolls to the left and right through the discrimination segments on your display. The pinpoint detect button has 2 functions. The pinpoint function switches the detector into pinpoint mode, which allows you to determine the exact position of your target. The detect function exits menu settings and returns the detector to normal operation. The accept and reject button accepts or rejects certain metals by turning on or off the individual discrimination segments in the coin and treasure mode. The track button toggles between fixed and tracking ground balance modes. The ground balance button toggles between the ground balance display and normal detecting display. This button is also held in for 3 seconds while viewing the ground balance display to turn the beach ground balance on or off. Now let's look at the various icons that will appear in your LCD display and what they mean. The all metal icon indicates that all metal pattern has been selected. The all metal pattern has no discrimination and will pick up signals from all types of ferrous and non-ferrous metals. The patterns icon displays the preset discrimination pattern number that is currently active. The X Terra 70 has 3 patterns. The iron mask icon indicates that iron mask mode has been selected. The battery icon shows how much power is left in the installed batteries. An empty flashing battery icon indicates that the batteries are nearly flat. The headphone icon indicates that the headphones are connected to the detector and that the headphone volume and threshold levels have been selected. The target ID stability icon indicates that this function has been selected. The numerical target ID icon displays numbers representing a target's ferrous content or level of conductivity. In coin and treasure mode, the numbers range from -8 to 48. Negative numbers represent ferrous or iron targets, and positive numbers represent non-ferrous targets. These numbers also show the iron mask value in prospecting mode and changes in menu settings in both coin and treasure and prospecting mode. In addition to the numerical target ID, targets are also represented as particular segments on the discrimination scale. Each discrimination segment represents a certain level of conductivity and ferrous content. Each discrimination segment may be turned on or off, which allows you to accept or reject certain targets. The reject icon appears only when a discrimination segment is rejected. This icon will disappear when accepting a discrimination segment. The coin and treasure mode icon appears when the coin and treasure mode has been selected. The prospecting mode icon will appear when prospecting mode has been selected. The outer ring on this icon indicates that pinpoint has been activated. The inner ring indicates how close the coil is to the target while in pinpoint mode. The menu scale shows adjustment of menu items and can be accessed by pressing the menu select button on the control panel. The track icon indicates that tracking ground balance has been activated. The beach icon indicates that the beach mode ground balance has been selected. The depth indicator shows the approximate distance between the coil and the target. One visible arrow indicates a distance between 0 and 2 inches between the coil and the target. 5 visible arrows indicate a distance of 8 to 10 inches or more between the coil and the target.
Did you know that Alexander Graham Bell is given credit for inventing the first metal detector in 1881? President Garfield, the U.S. president at the time, had been shot, and Bell was called in to see if he could detect the bullet in the president's body. He wasn't able to find the bullet, but later, after the president had died, they discovered that Bell's failure to find the bullet was probably caused, at least in part, by the presence of a metal coil spring mattress under the president's body. The X Terra 70 has two modes of operation, coin and treasure mode and prospecting mode. Let's go over to Gary, who's going to start you on the basics of the coin and treasure mode. We'll cover the prospecting mode later in the presentation.
Now, if you're anything like me, when I first got the machine, all I wanted to do was get out there and use it. But there's a few points I'd like to run you through. This is a switch on and go machine. But let's take you through a couple of points first. Now, the first thing we've got to do is adjust the detector to suit yourself. I've already done mine, so mine is just the right distance that I need it to be. Now, to have the detector adjusted to you is very important. I'll tell you why. It is lightweight, and lightweight means you can swing it all day. But if you don't set it right in your arm, you're going to get tired and cause a few muscles here and there to expand. So what we do, make sure your arm is out straight, bring the detector down, and just before it gets, see how that there now, that's great for me. It's just balancing itself there on the ground there. I nearly said on the floor, but it's balancing itself on the ground, and I can hold it there all day. The next thing we want to do is turn the machine on. Press the red button on the left, and the machine is on. And seeing this is the first time you've used your machine, it will go into factory preset. It's set in factory preset when it comes from the factory. So if you press any of these buttons at any time, later on and you make a mistake, you go, oh no, what do I do? Very easy, you can switch it back to the factory defaults. So here's how you do that. So first let's switch the machine off. With your thumb, hold in the mode auto button and then press the on button. Release, FP, factory presets. Good, so we got the machine how we want it. Factory presets. Now, let's go to, I like to call this VTA, volume, threshold, and air test. Now, let's take a look at the volume function to start. So we press the menu select button, and there is the volume. We can use the plus and minus, or the minus and plus keys to go up. We'll plus it up to the top. As far as we go, maximum is 30. When you hear that tone, that means I'm at maximum. Now, if you put in your headphones on, the machine has a different setting for the volume. So when it will memorize your previous setting. So you put your headphone jack in it, when you take it out, it will always revert back to that setting. So now we're going to go into threshold. We press the menu select button again until we come to the threshold. Now, threshold is quite low there, so I'll use the plus sign there and come up so we can just hear it. There you are. Can you hear that? I can hear it. Now, the threshold is the background hum. And what it does is it allows us to tell those very small targets that we could sometimes miss because we can hear them. When we're in discrimination and when we find the iron and you run your coil over and the sound, the background hum will disappear, the threshold hum will disappear, and then it'll come back. Then you know that something was there. But if we had no threshold there at all, we'd never know there was an object there, would we? Now, in my pocket, I have a silver dollar and a pull tab. I'm going to place these on the ground in front of me there. Now, you'll be able to hear the different sounds. That's the pull tab, and it's showing up as 16 on my meter. And I then run it over the $half, and I get 44. So there you can see what air testing allows you to do. Different metals have different conductivity. So the pull tab was 16, the silver dollar was 44. So after a while, I will remember and build up a reference of different targets by their numbers. So the large digital display, and it's very clear to see, helps me to recall those targets on the 16 and on the 44. Build up a reference. Don't try and run before you can walk. Go out, practice a few targets, and see if you can get used to them. The X Terra has been designed by Minelab to last many years, but you need to give it a little helping hand. and that is by cleaning it after each detecting trip. So, use a light detergent and a little bit of water. Also check under the coil cover to see if there's any grit or dirt. You'll have a long time out of it.
Okay, the next two things we need to look at before you start detecting are called noise cancel and ground balance. Those are the two ways that the detector will compensate for any interference it might get that could cause it to return false signals and make you think you had a target when you really didn't. First thing we'll look at is noise cancel. In order to noise cancel the machine using the auto function, which is the easiest, here's what you do. So for noise cancel, you have to hold your coil about a foot off the ground and as still as possible. And I'm going to try this with one hand, but if you need to use two hands to keep it steady, you can do that. Now the auto noise cancel, hit your menu select button and scroll through the options until you see noise cancel. There it is. Go over to your mode auto button, hit mode auto, and you'll see the AU come up, and you can see the scale will show you your progression through the noise cancel process, holding the coil very still. And once it finishes, you hear that finished tone and you're noise canceled. Hit pinpoint detect to go back into your main detecting mode, and that's it. The next step is to ground balance the machine, and we'll use the auto setting for that as well. So here's how you do that. You hit your ground balance button that's on the bottom right hand corner of the control panel, and once you hit it, you need to raise and lower your coil off the ground from about 1 inch to up to about 6 inches back and forth, and you'll hear tones, and I'll demonstrate. Hit your ground balance button. You have the tones back and forth, and while you're raising and lowering, hit your mode auto button. And once you hear that tone, it's ground balanced at where it should be. Hit your pinpoint detect button, and you go back into the main detecting mode. Okay, now you've made all the adjustments necessary on your detector, and now it's time to go out and detect. But it's extremely important to use good coil technique to make sure that you don't miss any targets. If your coil technique is bad, you will miss targets and you won't cover all the ground you need to. So let's demonstrate good coil technique. Turn the machine off. Now the tendency will be the human body, as you swing your coil and keep your arms stiff, your swings are going to come up on the sides. That's what we call UFOing, and that is a bad thing to do. What you need to do is get your whole body into it, rotating back and forth to where your coil is always parallel to the ground, about 1 inch off the ground. Minelab does recommend that you swing your coil on this detector about 1 inch off the ground. Don't scrub the ground with it. So let's look at this. You go back and forth, and what you're hearing is not me scrubbing the ground, it's hitting these leaves about 1 inch above the ground. And also, you don't have to just detect back and forth in a straight line about 3 feet. You can cover an enormous amount of ground by rotating your body back and forth and actually detecting in a half circle. So coil technique is extremely important, so make sure your coil is always parallel and you'll find more targets that way.
Did you know if you're new to the hobby of metal detecting, or you've been detecting for over 20 odd years, you will always learn something new. Log on to Minelab.com, the Minelab factory site there. There you can see all the latest machines and all the latest developments. Log on to MinelabOwners.com, the world's largest Minelab relating detecting forum. Here you'll meet over 3,000 people who use Minelab machines and will share their experiences with you.
All right, let's talk about pinpointing. You're out detecting, you found a target, you want to establish the exact location of that target on the ground so you can dig it and won't have to dig this size hole. So what you do is you activate the pinpoint function on the X Terra 70, and I've buried a target so we'll have something to use as a demonstration, so let's show you how that pinpoint works. Okay, you swing your coil over the target and you get a return, and it's a 44 because I'm using the same target, the $half that Gary used elsewhere in the presentation on a demonstration. So once you establish the general location of your target, you swing off of it, hit your pinpoint detect button. That activates this pinpoint meter here. You swing over the target and you'll hear a tone and the meter will change. Watch this. So what you want to do is get a solid tone, and you want to make sure that this meter fills all the way. And that means that the center of the coil is right over the center of your target. And that's where your target is. And so now let's recover the target the proper way. Okay, switch the detector off, set it aside. Got my trowel here. And this is in the woods, so I don't have to be as picky about how I dig my hole, although you always want to cover your holes that you dig. So push down around the target to where you cut some of the roots. And don't dig all the way around because you'll kill the grass if you happen to be in somebody's yard. Flip the sod over. And then if I was in somebody's yard where everything needed to be neat, I would have a plastic bag here to put the loose soil on. You put that back in, you leave a neat hole. Nobody knows you've ever been there. And there's the target. Set the target aside. Actually, put the target in my fines bag, which I have here as well. You can use your fines bag for good targets or for cleaning up the trash you happen to dig out of the ground. Just don't leave it laying around either. Rake the loose soil back in. Pull that back over. Tamp it down. Nice and neat.
Get to know your machine. Get to know what it's telling you. Read your manual again, and watch this DVD and watch it again. Now I'm going to cover the multi-tonal system on the X Terra 70. And we have 5 different settings. 1 tone, all the metals sound the same. 2 tones, ferrous sounds 1, non-ferrous sounds 1. 3 tones, we have 2 tones on the non-ferrous, we have 1 tone on ferrous. And 4 tones, we have 3 tones on non-ferrous and 1 tone just on the iron. Now when we go to 99 tones, we split all the different sounds of the conductivity of the metals we are detecting. Now I'm going to show you how to find your way around here with the menu select button. We keep pressing it until we come to the tones. There we have it, and I'm in 1 tone, which means that my machine is giving out the same tone for all metals. Use the plus button, up we go, 2 tones, 3 tones, 4 tones, and then you have 99 tones, which will return multiple tones based on the metal's conductivity. So that was a brief explanation of the tonal system. Now if you're new to detecting, my advice to you is don't start off with the 99 tones. Start off with maybe 2 or 3 and learn to know the signals that you're receiving, and then after a while, gradually as you get used to it, you can move up to the multi-tonal system.
Pull tabs. We all know them, we all find them, and we all hate them. With the X Terra 70's 99 tones option, the pull tabs will give you a flute-like variation in sound, and the numbers will jump between 1 and 3 digits. That's because that the X Terra 70 is reading the overall shape of the pull tab, the holes in the pull tab, and the shape of the holes rather than just one solid object. Now coins will normally give you a solid tone without the number variation. So if you know some areas that you detect have a lot of pull tabs, switch to the 99 tones option and see if you can start to listen for those tone variations, and with some practice you might be able to leave a lot of those pull tabs behind with this detector. Let's talk about noise cancel for a second. I covered the auto noise cancel in the basic section, but there is a manual way you can do that. Now, noise cancel gets rid of any electromagnetic interference that the detector might pick up, like from satellite dishes, electrical power lines, things like that. It compensates for that. So to manual noise cancel, here's all you do. You switch your machine on, go to your menu select button, and scroll through until you see noise cancel, and mine happens to be on +2. This will go from +2 to -2 in steps of 1. You use your minus or plus keys to switch it from one channel to another, but when you do that, you need to raise your coil about a foot off the ground, and it only takes 1 button push per adjustment. That's 1, 0. You can go through these until you find a stable channel if you think the auto function hasn't auto-adjusted adequately. And once you select your channel, hit pinpoint detect, and you're ready to go. Now let's talk about ground balancing. We covered the way to auto ground balance in the basic section, but there are 2 ways you can adjust your ground balance based on the kind of soil you're detecting on. Normal is for normal ground, and beach is for the beaches. You hit your ground balance button, and you raise and lower your coil from about 1 inch off the ground to about 6 inches. You don't want to bounce the coil off the ground. You hear a high tone, and if you hear a high tone, you use your minus key to lower the number. to where there is an equal mix of low and high tones or no tone at all. And if you happen to be on the other end of the scale, you'll hear a low tone, and you use your plus key to increase that number to where there is an equal mix. Now that's in the normal mode. Now if you want to go to beach ground balance, in your ground balance mode, you hit your ground balance button again, hold it for 3 seconds, and you'll see the beach icon appear there. And then you ground balance the exact same way while you're on the beach. Once you're finished ground balancing, you hit your pinpoint detect button, and you're back in your main detecting mode. And see, your beach icon will stay there if you are in beach mode. In order to shut that back off and go back to normal ground balance, you go back to your ground balance mode, hold the button in for 3 seconds, it disappears, hit your pinpoint detect button, and you're all set. Now, having your machine properly ground balanced is going to help target ID accuracy, it's going to increase your detector's overall stability, and also help you run at a higher sensitivity level. Auto ground balance is going to be the best setting for you 99 out of 100 times, but if you want to run in manual, consider using auto to start with and then manually fine-tune in either direction. Some people even will positively ground balance by a couple numbers. That helps with target ID accuracy and also helps rejection of ground mineralization. Now, if the ground you're working on is pretty stable and your ground balance numbers as you adjust are only changing by a couple, say from 22 to 26, consider leaving it in 24 and detecting. If the numbers are wildly erratic, going from the 20s to the 40s, consider using the tracking function. Tracking will dynamically adjust your ground balance as you detect. But what you need to be aware of is that if you detect a signal and it's not a strong enough signal to go straight to pinpoint, you need to disable your tracking and sweep back over it. Otherwise, the tracking could adjust to the target. If you go straight to pinpoint, tracking is automatically disabled. Let's talk a bit more about ground balancing. The X Terra 70 has normal and beach modes of ground balance, and as you'd expect, you use the normal mode for normal mineralized ground conditions and the beach mode for any combination of magnetic and conductive ground conditions, as on the beach with dry, damp, and wet sand. But here's a little tip for you. You can't use the normal mode on the beaches, but you might be able to use beach mode on mineralized ground if you run across a patch of ground that's very noisy and very difficult for even normal ground balance. And you can also use the tracking ground balance function to show you the changing ground conditions, because when you select tracking ground balance and leave the ground balance display up, you see the numbers changing as the ground conditions change. Now back over to the beaches. When you move from the lighter colored sand, which is dry, to the darker colored sand, which is damp but not completely soaked, and some people refer to this as the transition area, you'll see a huge change in ground balance numbers. Higher numbers indicate wetter sand with a higher saline content. Lower numbers usually indicate a lower saline content and drier sand. Now, tracking ground balance can handle this just fine, but if you prefer using a fixed ground balance setting, consider detecting these areas separately. Set your ground balance for dry sand, detect that part of the beach, then move on to the damp section, ground balance for that part, etc., etc. This lets you avoid having to ground balance every time you pass between the dry, damp, and wet sand areas.
Now let's take a closer look at the sensitivity setting. Now if you've ground balanced your machine and you've also noise cancelled and you find that your threshold is still fluttering in and out, take a look at the sensitivity. Imagine you're driving your car in the fog. You've got your high beam and your low beam. You set on your high beam, all you see is a blanket of white. You don't see very much, but when you dip your headlight, then you can see more clearly. It's the same with your detector and its sensitivity. If you overpower, you're masking out some targets. Now, one of the great features of the X Terra 70 is its ability to accept or reject finds that you want to find or you don't want to find. For example, you don't want to find a nail, you can knock them out. If you want to find the silver dollars, you can accept them. But to do that, you have to save it in patterns. Now, the X Terra has also got built-in preset patterns. Let me just switch the machine on there. And we have 3 built-in preset patterns. Now, preset pattern 1 rejects all ferrous. Preset pattern 2 rejects ferrous and some non-ferrous, and preset pattern 3 rejects ferrous as well, but it allows some of the relics in, some relics that you normally find. So there are 3 preset patterns there for you, which you can start off straight away. And we have another pattern called all metal, which accepts all metal as its name states. So there we go, there's a silver dollar there, and there's a cartridge, a shotgun cartridge there. Now I'm going to show you how to accept and reject these 2 targets. Now you will want to accept the silver dollar, won't you? You won't want to reject it. But we'll find a lot of these cartridges like where we are in the woods. So let's take a look. This is how you do it. Now I don't want to find those pesky shotgun cartridges. So I take my coil, I run it over,
It's showing 20 on my meter here. So I just press the accept reject button. No shotgun cap. Please note that your shotgun caps are all different, but this is 20, this one I'm doing here now. Now notice that the threshold tone drops. You hear that? It just disappears. So it's telling me that it's rejected that target. So when you're out detecting, when you hear that tone disappear, it's telling you that you've gone over a target which you have rejected. There we go, no 20. Now, not many people want to reject a silver dollar at the start of our show, but I do just because I can, to show you how it works. There's 44 on my meter, reject, silver dollar's gone. I want it back again, press accept reject, X is gone, 44 is back. There you have your silver dollar. Accept and reject. Now, don't worry about that you may have got a few things saved wrong and everything. You have preset patterns in here, and you could also reset them back to the factory default. So what you do, you press the machine off, you put your finger on the patterns button and press the on button at the same time. You hear that sound, and then you will see PE, patterns erased, and you're back to where you were. So experiment, have fun.
If you want to work in fixed ground balance, there is an option to do that without having to go through auto or manual. Tracking ground balance operates at a very fast speed for about 2 seconds. So what you can do is hit your tracking ground balance button, bob the coil up and down for 2 seconds, hit track again, and you're ground balanced.
I can tell you now, the biggest thing you're ever going to detect in your life is going to be the earth and the mineralization it's kicking out. You'll never get rid of it, but you can compensate for it. So always check your ground balance.
Okay, Gary and I have covered the basics and advanced settings of the X Terra 70 in coin and treasure mode. Now let's go over to Kevin Hoagland of Minelab in Las Vegas, Nevada, USA, who will take you through the basics and advanced settings in prospecting mode.
Gary and Pat have done an excellent job in sharing with you the capabilities of the new Minelab X Terra 70 as a premier coin, relic, and treasure hunting detector. Now I'd like to share with you the other side of the X Terra 70, the prospecting mode. Based on Minelab's new patented V-Flex technology, by simply pressing one button, I go from the coin and relic mode to a full power prospecting mode, making the X Terra 70 the first digital multifunction machine on the market. And the X Terra 70 shares a lot of features with other detectors in the Minelab line. Features like automatic ground balance, ground tracking, and noise cancel, just to mention a few. So let's take a little bit of time and we'll set up the X Terra 70 for prospecting.
When you first turn the X Terra 70 on, you want to make sure that you're in the prospecting mode. And here we're still in the coin and relic mode, as indicated by the coin icon in the center of the display. Now to go to the prospecting mode, we simply go to the mode auto switch, press the button, and then it comes up with the pick icon, and it also shows if you're in the factory preset, you'll see the number 5, and that corresponds with 5 bars across your Ferris ID indicator. All targets are identified by an audio signal only. The number that you see on the display right now does not directly relate to the target, but shows the value of the iron mask or the iron discrimination. The factory preset on the X Terra 70 is 5. I suggest that you actually leave it there. If you hit targets like this piece of junk iron that I found not too long ago, the machine will blank, letting you know that you have an iron or junk target. And at 5, small gold targets, small nuggets like this, will definitely ring out.
Now that you've seen how easy it is to set up the prospecting mode on the X Terra 70, let's go nugget hunting in one of my favorite spots, Rich Hill, Arizona. Tuning the Minelab X Terra 70 as a gold prospecting machine is almost as simple as just pressing one button. Changing it from the coin and relic mode to the gold prospecting mode, and then just taking 3 or 4 steps to go from there to ground balance, noise cancel, and get ready to hunt. So let's go over those steps right now. The X Terra has the ability to, by using noise cancel, to cancel out all the background noise or electrical interference created by overhead power lines, other detectors, radio phones, cell phones, and so on like that. And I know Gary and Pat have gone over noise canceling, but for prospecting, noise canceling is very important in working in areas like this. So I'm going to use the automatic method. You'll go to your menu select button and toggle it until the word noise cancel comes up. lift your coil a few inches off the ground and go to the mode auto switch and press it one time. Now the machine will start to, you'll see it animating as it's going around the circle. At this point what it's doing is it's finding the proper channel and eliminating all of the outside interference. Once again, electrical interference, other detectors and so on like that. Once it's done, it'll tone and you're ready to go. We'll press the pinpoint detect to take it out of the noise cancel mode. And now let's go on to ground balancing. One of the most important parts of becoming a successful nugget hunter, other than swinging your coil over gold, is learning how to ground balance your machine or having a machine that automatically ground balances for you. The X Terra 70 will do both, plus it also has the added feature of having an automatic tracking, which is a little bit different than the ground balance. To ground balance the X Terra 70, we're going to place the machine into the all metal mode, go to our ground balance button, press that. At this point we can choose to either manually ground balance the machine or automatically ground balance the machine. We're going to go ahead and do both ways. To begin with, we're going to do the automatic ground balancing, where we hold the machine about 4 inches off the ground, press the mode auto button, and it ground balances that quickly. What you'll see is you'll see the little AU show up, you'll see the animation with the wheel rolling, and then as soon as the machine is ground balanced, you'll hear it beep. Now to ground balance in the manual mode, we're going to come out of the ground balance for just a moment, go back into ground balancing, and at this point we simply lift and lower the coil. We'll pump the coil up and down, and let me throw it out of balance. You hear the high-pitched sound? What we want to do is we want to have the machine make the same sound, a lower tone, and basically the same tone going up and going down. So lifting the coil no more than about 4 inches off the ground, pump the machine, and I have a noise as I'm coming up with this detector, so I'm going to use the negative or the negative icon to lower that pitch. You can hear the pitch lowering. And now you hear it starting to rise again. So I've gone beyond the ground balance point. I'll use the plus sign, and the machine is now leveled out. We have basically the exact same sound going up and going down. You'll press the pinpoint detect button. Press the all metal mode to bring the 5 icon or the iron discrimination or iron mask icon up, and you're ready to go hunt. Well, don't let anybody kid you, nugget hunting is not easy. We've been after this for a few hours and everybody getting a little hot and getting a little tired. I've got a signal here. There's an old saying about nugget hunting about never putting your coil where you're not willing to dig. And just about got to that spot right here with this cactus. But I've got a real nice sweet little signal. Right there next to that cactus, and I think we're going to dig it. I've dug a lot of bullets today. We'll take a look at this and see what we end up with here. Now when you dig a target, be real careful. First off, you really need a good digging tool. A geologist pick, those things like that for nugget hunting are just not the best idea. Get you a good rounded bladed pick with a good sharp point on it, and always put a magnet on the end of it. That magnet will get rid of a lot of the junk. That magnet will get rid of a lot of junk. It'll also set off your detector. So when you start to dig a target, dig around that target and pull that material back towards you or up, or whichever direction you have to go. And be careful when you're digging. I've seen a guy take a pick and jam it into the ground one time and came back up with a nugget stuck on the end of his pick. Well, we've moved that target, and now it's time to really locate it. Now, the other thing that I always suggest when you're nugget hunting is make sure to have a scoop with you. Plastic scoop will save you a lot of headaches and heartaches in the long run. There's been a couple of times that, one time in particular, I was digging a target just using my hand and went across the coil the first time, nothing there. Went across the second time, nothing there. Came across the third time, and I had the signal, but I also had this terrible feeling in my hand, and when I opened up my hand, I had a small scorpion stuck to me. So use a scoop whenever possible. And my target's not in there. There's a target in there somewhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to half that material out. And we're going to keep doing this until the target disappears from the... Well, that's got an awfully big sound to it. Okay, target's no longer in the cup. Oh, that's what we're here for. It's getting pretty late in the day. That's a nice little nugget. Cool. Let's see if we can find some more. I was just getting ready to say goodbye. Thanks for Minelab. All of us at Minelab USA wanted to thank you for enjoying the X Terra 70. When I got another signal, I'm about, I don't know, 10, 12 feet up. No, about 20 feet up from where I found that last nugget. I got to go ahead and dig this. Maybe we got another nugget to say goodnight on. But we're losing our sun pretty quick, so let's see what we got. I'll be. Wow, that's a great way to end the day. Can you get a good shot of that? Yeah, that's the way to end the day. Yeah, I was just getting ready to sign off and tell everybody that thank you for Minelab USA and your new X Terra 70, and we hope you have lots of fun and go out and find some good targets, gold, coins, relics, jewelry, anything else. The X Terra 70 is just a powerful little machine, and I tell you what, I'm really, really happy with it. The ability to change coils, to change your frequencies. Plus, hey, I found 2 nuggets with it today, and we weren't really even hunting that hard. It was more to just share with you how to hunt with the machine. So from all of us at Minelab USA, we hope you enjoy your X Terra 70.
Well, for those of you who bought the X Terra or thinking about the X Terra, Pat and I are going to show you some of the accessories that you can get from Minelab.
Correct.
Should we have a take a look at one of the coils?
Start with the coils, yeah. This is a 10" by 5" elliptical double D.
That's nice.
Yep, and this is the high frequency coil, 18.75 kilohertz.
Yeah.
And of course the differences in the different coils, the higher the frequency, the better it is on lower conductivity targets like gold.
Yeah.
So this would be a fantastic coil for gold detecting.
And it's brilliant on mineralization as well, isn't it?
Double D design is actually better on mineralized ground. So where you would use a double D high frequency coil would be areas with highly mineralized ground with few targets.
Yeah, can I explain to you a little bit about the WD, how it works? You see, draw an imaginary line right down the center there.
That's it.
And the double D will detect on that center line there.
Mm-hmm. Now the windings in there overlaps. That's why it's a bit thicker than the concentric coil.
Yeah.
It's actually 2 Ds. It's a D on this side, D on that side, and they do overlap a bit.
Yeah.
And the overlap part is where you detect. So it's almost a blade of detect signal from tip to toe on this.
Okay.
So you don't have to overlap your swings as much as you do with the concentric coil.
And also for those who are going to use it, it's great in the trash because I'll look this shape so you can move in between the targets.
Good target
pick them out,
separation with that one, yeah.
Good. And before we go,
yes,
it's lightweight. It's not heavy, so it
is very lightweight.
It'll match the X Terra perfectly. Fantastic piece of kit to your arsenal on the X Terra 70.
Next we have the low frequency 3 kilohertz,
Okay.
9-inch concentric coil.
3 kilohertz. What does that give us then?
The
Pat?
3 kilohertz. Now, like I said before, high frequency, good on low conductivity targets.
Yeah.
Low frequency on high conductivity targets.
Okay.
So this is brilliant on the gold, or no, I'm sorry, not gold, silver and copper coins, things like that.
Okay. Great. And the difference between the concentric coil
Yes.
and the double D is that we get a cone shape, don't we?
The detecting pattern is different. With the double D, you get the blade. With the concentric, it's a cone shape from the outside edge all the way down into a point, which makes it fantastic for pinpointing. But because it has that detecting pattern, you need to make sure and overlap your swings by at least a third of the coil to make sure you don't miss any ground.
Okay. Another coil.
It's fantastic.
Tell me about the standard coil that's on the X Terra.
Standard coil is a 7.5 gigahertz concentric. It's identical to that one, except it's a different frequency.
Okay.
And it's good for general all-around detecting any conditions. But those are for special use coils.
Yeah.
You can adjust your coil to match what kind of detecting you want to do.
But just so we get things straight, you can only use these coils on the X Terras.
That's correct, yeah.
Because
only on the X Terra
it's
7.
got a microchip in it, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's got the chip in it that talks to the processor in the control box.
Yeah.
So these are specially for the X Terra series.
And because it's made by Minelab, it's specially tuned to your detector. So you can't go out and buy another coil and put it on. Only the Minelab coil with that chip that communicates gives you the best that
correct.
you need.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's
Fantastic.
move on.
Let's talk about some accessories specifically for the X Terra 70 and otherwise.
All right.
Minelab has their tried and true polo shirts
Yeah.
with the Minelab logo on. Actually, I'm wearing one now. These are fantastic.
Yeah, look at that. Good make as well.
Yeah, very sturdy material.
Yeah.
They have the body warmers, which are lovely for cold weather.
No, I live in Norway, so I use these quite regular.
yeah.
Not so much in Tennessee
Yeah,
here.
same when I go
I
over
use
with
them
you.
in
Yeah.
Norway. The
These
Minelab
are fantastic. The logo there.
very good. Don't forget, if you want any of these accessories, contact your authorized Minelab dealer.
Yeah,
Is that right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
Yeah, Minelab is a one-stop shop for detecting accessories. Just need to check with your authorized dealer to find out what he has or what she has.
Okay, what's next?
Next, we have the Minelab ball caps.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put one on.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
You can't,
These
but
are
they,
great.
They don't do these yet.
I wear one of these all the time. Love it.
Yeah, cool.
Fantastic.
Okay.
And next
Minelab
we
cap.
have the control box covers for the X Terra 70. Keeps out the rain, sleet, snow, whatever.
Yeah, it also stops scratches, doesn't it?
It
on the
stops you
camera?
from scratching your control panel. It stops, instead of getting the control panel dirty as you're making adjustments after you've been digging into the ground, you get the cover dirty. The cover's easier to replace after it wears out than the control panel cover is. On the side, I don't know if you saw it on that one,
Oh.
but it has a port.
Oh, yeah.
This is where the headphone jack goes in. You open your flap on the control box and your headphones go in there. So
Okay,
it's
cool.
they plan for that as well.
Well done. We think of everything. these
Fantastic.
Minelab
Yes, they
people.
do. Here is a short stem for the X Terra 70. It's fantastic for children, for young people, people that may be shorter and need a bit more adjustment than the standard shaft will give. It's fantastic for that.
Yeah.
You can take your kids
Yeah,
detecting with you.
Take my son with me with that.
Yes, absolutely.
Because the X Terra is quite light as well, so that
for
very
sure.
clever. Very clever. What's next?
Next we have, and this is new.
I like
I've
this.
never seen one of these before. It's fantastic. This is Minelab's new fines bag, and it has with it a nylon quick detach belt that slides through the top loop here. It has a zip pouch at the top for your good fines. It has two larger fine pouches in the bottom,
Yeah.
and also has loops for your detecting digger. It's fantastic.
Cool.
I love that.
In fact, if I talk to you nicely, will you send me one? Because I haven't got one of these. In fact, this is great.
This is lovely, yeah.
In fact, can I give him a tip while we're doing this?
Absolutely.
A lot of people go hunting for coins. You know the old 35mm film canisters
Yes.
you used to get? Mm-hmm. They're great to have in your fines bag because you just take the top off, find your good coins, put it in that 35mm canister and close the top. There you go.
That's good advice, especially if you hunt for coins and find something that you think is maybe extremely rare.
Yeah.
And of course, you don't clean it off right there in the field. You don't rub the coin and scratch
No,
it with
no,
the
no,
dirt.
no,
You put it in a 35mm film canister with maybe even a couple of wads of cotton wool and protect that coin rather than sticking it in the zip pouch with the rest of your decent finds.
This is cool, this. Remember, always take your trash home. Because I'll tell you why. Because you'll be out detecting there, and if you throw it away, you're only going to dig it up again next time.
Yeah.
So put it in your trash bag,
Well,
take
there's
it home.
another reason that you should do that as well,
What's that?
because if you leave your trash lying around, you won't be asked to come back, or you won't be
That's true.
allowed to come back when you want to go back and detect that site again.
Environmental friendly detecting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There we go. Let's move on. What's next, Pat?
Last but not least, we have
What's that?
detector case
Oh, wow.
with the Minelab
That's
logo.
a big one, isn't it? Let's
We're
have a look
doing
at that.
nylon, very heavy,
Yeah.
and this will be suitable for any of the Minelab machines,
Yeah.
not just the X Terra.
Yeah,
It's got an outside pouch for your headphones, for your little fines, Ziploc bags, whatever.
Yeah, cool.
And also inside the main compartment where the detector goes, it has Velcro straps that you can strap your detector to one
Okay.
side so it doesn't shift back and forth around.
Very
so very
nice.
heavy, very nice.
Yeah, well made. There you go. Minelab accessories.
Minelab accessories, Minelab coils. Contact your local authorized Minelab dealer for more information on this.
Yeah, cool. Have fun, people.
Heavy mineralization can change the way the X Terra 70 sees targets in the ground, which can affect your target ID. You could be walking over good targets in the ground and not even know it. Target ID Stabilizer, or Target ID Plus, uses a special algorithm specially designed for high mineralization, and it causes the X Terra 70 to make a better judgment about what kind of target's in the ground. You should only use this on very noisy ground because in normal ground conditions, junk targets could also be stabilized using this function.
Well, this concludes our presentation on the Minelab X Terra. Now, for further information, get in contact with your nearest authorized Minelab dealer.
You can also go to Minelab's website at www.minelab.com or the Minelab owner's website at www.minelabowners.com for more information, tips, hints, and tricks.
And Pat and I wish you all the best if you get the new detector. And don't forget, get out there and find your hidden treasure.